welcome to the latest episode of Cats Gone Wild. What's happening there, Mark, over in the Catatorium?
It's Potter Day here. You okay there, buddy?
Having a good time?
There's a rotten face to see at this time in the morning.
Oh, yeah, I think you should definitely blow their nose and maybe get to a doctor and a plastic surgeon about that one.
This dude, he was out drinking the night before, and he woke up beside this. He's like, what the fuck? Yes, the John Carpenter train rolls on.
Yes,
darkness.
Mark pick here from John Carpenter's movies.
Yeah, not to be confused with Megadeth's Prince of Darkness, which is an excellent song. Yeah, it's a bit of a wacky one this week, would you say, Johnny?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's got a lot of tropes of the kind of 70s satanic panic sort of themes, and my mind's gone blank. What's the big 70s one with the girl on the bed and spitting her head and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, Exorcist.
Yeah, Exorcist. It's got that sort of vibe to it, mixed in with other elements.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting premise. So
if you want to know the quantum physics of the devil, this is the movie to watch.
Yeah, so I'll try and kind of, before we kind of get into the...
Yeah, that's what I want you to do, because it was kind of weird. It's good, but it's a weird premise just to kind of get your head around.
Yeah, so basically it's about this... There's like a sect of Catholic priests that are known as the Brotherhood of the Sleep, and they've been guarding this secret canister, which supposedly contains the liquefied essence of Satan himself. And for years, this kind of secret order has kept this force contained within the catacombs of their church. But now the final member of their order has died, and a priest who's played by Donald Pleasance, who we remember from Halloween and Escape from New York and some other exciting Carpenter movies. He shows up and he discovers what's been going on, and he learns that essentially that what's contained within this canister that the priests were guarding, it's actually of extraterrestrial origin, or believed to be of extraterrestrial origin.
But it is the devil. It's like all the stories that come along from Catholicism. This alien force is what became the basis of the biblical devil.
Exactly, and also, it's not a big spoiler, but it's kind of explained to us later on in the movie. This Jesus supposedly was a extraterrestrial being, and which also is offers up explanations for miracles and things like of that nature. So we've got a real kind of clashing of religion and science fiction kind of coming together to create this.
And there was situation. like the 80s, there were a number of like paperback books around like quantum physics for the lay person and stuff. It was like in the zeitgeist for the time.
And it's funny though, even trying to explain that much, it was very herky jerky, and I'm like, what exactly are they doing? And I was listening to the audio commentary for this movie recently, and it's John Carpenter and one of the actors, and like even Carpenter in the commentary is kind of like he's trying to explain like the premise, and he's kind of like, I'm actually not 100% sure what was going on here, but it was a really fun movie to make.
It kind of feels like an episode of Buffy or something, like the kind of style of it and themes, and
it's another one of those kind of styles that's typical of Carpenter, in the sense that it's one of those kind of build up movies where you're like kind of like building the anticipation for this villainous force of evil to show up, and the whole movie's kind of building tension towards that. So I think, as I mentioned last week, it's one of my lesser watched Carpenter movies. Like, I
Mm.
wouldn't put it in his high esteem as something like The Thing or The Fog or Halloween, but I was definitely looking to revisit it and take another look and to mull over it, because there is a lot of good in it. As crazy as
It's very well made, and it's almost like, I mean, it looks like a regularly shot film, but it uses a lot of fun tricks that are very simple visual practical effects and reverse shots and things filmed upside down. But he just goes through the whole playbook of all the cool stuff you would see in like 70s horror films and that and early 80s stuff. He uses so many good little low budget filmmaking tricks, but they just look fantastic on camera. Like there's a scene we'll say later on where a guy's standing outside a building at night in silhouette, and his whole body is just like coming apart to all these bugs or roaches or whatever, and then his head just falls off. And it just uses so many great filmmaking tricks, like, and puts them all together just kind of seamlessly.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's visually spectacular at times, but like you said, they're using every kind of old Hollywood trick in the book, and
Yeah,
we will get into
because
that.
most of the time
The
it is in a
music,
couple of ordinary buildings and such. There's no like, it's not like we're doing big fancy sets. There's a number of good practical buildings, and but it's a pretty ordinary, like, I don't know what university or whatever it's supposed to be. It's like an ordinary location, which makes me think of like Buffy and that in schools and universities and the gardens outside. It's a kind of ordinary middle America kind of background setting.
fantastic soundtrack as well,
Yeah,
typical
it's great.
of John Carpenter. He does good music, I have to say. He
Yeah,
knows
there's
what
good
he's doing.
playlists on YouTube too. You can find ones for certain films, or you can even find playlists where it plays the main theme from each of his major films through the 70s and 80s and that. And I was listening to some earlier today.
We see here in these kind of opening credits and opening shots, just as I mentioned earlier, we have the priest played by Donald Pleasance coming to visit the order, and he finds the diary of the deceased kind of bishop or whoever it was that was looking after the secret, and we see him reading through it and getting to grips with what it was that this kind of secret order was hiding. And then we see here, is it Victor Wong? Is that the name of this guy, or am I getting him mixed up with the other guy? Let me see here.
I'm
Yeah, I think it
terrible with
is
the
Victor
past names.
Wong
I'm just
is the
like,
name
there's
of
the
this
guy
actor.
from like Big Trouble in Little China, or
Yeah,
both the guys from Big Trouble in Little China.
yeah, both the guys. Yeah, both the guys from Big Trouble in Little China, and this dude's in Tremors as well, and loads of other
Yeah,
cool stuff that we'd enjoy. But yeah, he's a physics professor, a quantum physics
yeah.
professor.
I'm just double checking the cast. It doesn't. Donald Pleasant. Victor Wong is the older Oriental fella. He's got the very
So
distinctive parted hair.
we get the opening moments of this movie are essentially the title credits interspersed with scenes of Donald Pleasance kind of finding out about the deceased dude, and then Victor Wong teaching his quantum physics class, and
Yeah, and he's talking
pretty
about
much
time,
all.
saying time's basically simultaneous or like a mental construct, and everything's happening all at once, but just our perception is showing linear time.
Yeah, they're discussing that what's it, that the dead cat in the box
Yeah,
theory,
like
that kind
Schrodinger's
of.
cat.
Yeah. So yeah, all nice little opening here, and like I mentioned, we get the great Carpenter kind of tense soundtrack over it all,
Yeah,
and it's um it's one of those movies. It throws a lot at you. I think part of the reason maybe why this movie struggles a little bit compared to other Carpenter movies is it's way more character heavy than your
yeah,
typical
it is. It is.
Carpenter movie. Like, there's a lot of people here to keep track of, right from the get go. So, because we got Victor Wong, he's given his lecture. Pretty much all the students in this classroom are actually going to be characters throughout the movie. So there's a half dozen or so kind of kids we have to kind of get to know here. So
and there's also Alice Cooper cameo in this movie.
yes, that's right. Alice
Turns out
Cooper is
as well as being WrestleMania is also John Carpenter. He's doing all right.
yeah, he's a murderous bum.
And there was a music credit as well. I don't know if it's just the cameo or if he contributed a piece of background music or something, because it came up in the music credits, so I have to double check it again.
So we see here as well that Donald Pleasance is piping up a letter, I think, to the Vatican or someplace important like that, letting them know the situation. And
Craig
we
Island,
cut
so
to
send it.
Craig Island, yeah.
Don't come in.
he's letting Bishop Brennan know what the story is.
Yeah, he's going to kick him up the arse.
But yeah, we see we cut to the college campus, and a car pulls up, and Donald Pleasance emerges, and he goes to speak to Victor Wong's character about what's going on. And we also, while this is all happening, we just see some scenes in the corridors with the other students from the class, and they're kind of speculating as to why would a priest be coming to visit a quantum physics professor, and
yeah.
they're not too sure about what's going on. As we, the audience, are also not too sure about what's going on, because I remember watching this for the first time and just being like, I have literally no idea what's going on.
It's like
just
you got this like secret society within the priesthood business, and then the as the plot goes along, we find out the professor guy, they're having shared dreams or premonitions, but it kind of like that's the kind of connection, like it's like if they're a group of folks who are having these shared experiences, but they're the ones who are empowered that they can do something about the bad events coming.
really nice looking sets they have here.
Yeah, like it feels like we're going Breakfast Club now. We're like Ghostbusters too. They seem like big artworks and.
But a nice moment here where we see the dude with the mustache. I'm just going to refer to him as that from now on, or should I actually find out what his name is? Let me see here.
I'll look. I've got the thing on the side here. It's that would be the oh crap! I accidentally clicked it away from it when I tried to look at it. Jameson Parker, I think.
Jameson Parker, yeah. So Jameson, that's an interesting first name. But he's sitting at home. He's playing with his deck of cards, which is a kind of trademark of his. We'll see him bust out the cards numerous times throughout the movie, but as he's kind of playing with them and looking at them, he notices on the TV there's a news story about a new supernova that's just been discovered, which catches his eye, and plays a little bit more into the quantum physics angle that we're going to be getting into later on. So we cut to the outside of this church in the middle of LA, and Donald Pleasance and Victor Wong are going inside, and Pleasance is basically going to show Victor what lies beneath, and he uses a key that was on the, it's real Resident Evil style stuff here.
Yeah,
Donald Pleasance has a key that he took from the dead body of the other priest who died at the start of the movie, and he uses it to open the door down to the basement, and then a little thing comes up in the menu and says, "You no longer need this key. Will you discard it? Yes or no?"
You've got very limited inventory, Donald Pleasance.
So anyway,
you do not have unlimited pockets like Resident Evil 4.
Right. So yeah, he shows Victor Wong what's underneath the church. So basically,
It's not Harrison Ford.
Yeah, and it's not pink slime, but it is green slime. So it's not that Ghostbusters 2 style ectoplasm angry slime. It's weird green swirling slime inside a big canister. Have to say, straight away, fair play to the ancient Catholic priests for being able to construct this container to hold an extraterrestrial force, and They did
Yeah, it's
well.
funny. It's a very different movie to say Carpenter's The Thing, but I rewatched both of these today as well as some other ones, and there is some quite similar themes and stuff going. Or like you got extraterrestrial, and you've got this like it's extraterrestrial, but it has no actual form, so it can possess things or become things. So you got the kind of similar morphing presence thing in both films.
Well, on the subject of The Thing, now maybe I'm misremembering here. Is this movie is possibly part of what's called John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy? Does that ring any bells? There's like 3 of
I
his
haven't
films that
heard
are
that for a
counted
while.
as
I'm going to type that in and see if it says what's the other film. What's it say really? Because the other one would be, I assume that one would be the Piper one or not? Because that's also got aliens.
Oh, I
Or
have it.
something
Okay, I have it here. So this is counted as the second installment of the
thing.
Apocalypse trilogy. So
In the Mouth of
Thing,
Madness. I've not watched that
yes.
other one.
You like that. If you haven't watched it before, you'll
I'll
enjoy
watch that
that. We
tomorrow
should.
if I can find it. 94.
So yeah, folks, the Apocalypse trilogy for John Carpenter is counted as The Thing,
Sam Neill's in it. Kiwi fella.
Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness. I actually love In the Mouth of Madness. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to discuss it possibly
I'm
next
going
year.
to check that out tomorrow because I've never seen that one. There's still a few Carpenter films I haven't seen. And then, but I'm just looking at the cast. And Sam Neill, who's a Kiwi fella, of course, I've watched a lot of his movies. I had no idea he's in that one. And then it says another of the cast member is Jürgen Prochnow, who was in Das Boot, which is one of my all-time favorite war movies.
Charles Heston also make an appearance in the
Really? Does he have a dodgy moustache or anything on? Pretend to be a Mexican, perhaps?
No, he looks really good.
Oh,
Sam Neill totally steals the show in it, though.
Yeah.
But don't worry, folks, we'll get there someday. But yeah, so the Apocalypse trilogy is The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness. And spoiler, folks, we're going to be looking at The Thing next week. So
he must have filmed that back to back with bloody Jurassic Park in 1994, because Jurassic Park was 93 they're filming, and then this is 94 for that film.
Yeah, very, very close production schedules, I'd imagine. So we got a little bit more of a look at our would-be heroes for this flick. So we see Jameson, who we mentioned earlier on, and he is also joined by Catherine Danforth, who's played by Lisa Blunt, and Walter Fong, who's played by Dennis Dunn. So that's that other
the other black. He's the hero in Big Trouble in Little China. It's not.
That's right.
Kurt Russell's character. Kurt Russell's the psychic, the Dunn guy. He's the real hero of the movie.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, great character in another favorite movie of mine of JC. So yeah, we just got
might watch that one tomorrow. I think
we got the impression that these kids, they've just been asked to essentially participate in what they believe to be some type of quantum physics experiment, but the kind of the lure for them is that if they do participate in it, it will count as credits towards their actual qualifications. So they're not too happy about having to do college related stuff on their planned weekend off, but they're all begrudgingly going along with it because you're going to earn credits towards your degree or your PhD or whatever it is you're studying in quantum physics. So they're convinced to go along. So and what they're being asked to do basically is they're going to have to stay in this church over the weekend.
There'll be some computers in the background to make it very sciencey.
Yeah, there's going to be other people from other faculties within the university. So like quantum physics is one, but there's also like chemistry and other kind of physics people going to be showing up there as well. So they seem to be pulling expertise together from the larger student body.
They should have just said to them, they should just go, look, have you seen the Breakfast Club? It's like that, but there'll be no fun and it's all work. Just all get together in the same room.
But it will count towards your final
Yes.
grade. So, like, we're giving you a choice to do it, but really, if you don't do it, it's going to be bad news for you come
Plus Satan
grade
will
time.
win, so there's that.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, but they don't know that yet.
No.
So,
That'd be a hell of a thing, though. It'd be like extra marks assignment. We beat Satan, possibly. A plus.
we see that Jameson with his mustache as well is also able to lure what's her name again? I keep forgetting her name.
I can't tell with some of the cast because you get old pictures when they're older, but you got Anne-Marie Howard, Susan Cabot, Susan Blanchard as Kelly,
Catherine, I think,
and
is
Catherine
the
Danforth
girl's
as
name.
Lisa Blount.
Yeah, so Jameson and Catherine, they do the dirty deed the night
Nobody can
before
resist
they're
that
supposed.
soup strainer. That's a real moustache. That's a Magnum moustache right there.
Yeah, and he can't resist her red-haired charm either,
Yep.
in her big 80s hair.
Yeah, the big year.
We also got some nice banter between Donald Pleasance and Victor Wong, because Victor's still trying to like get to the bottom of what exactly is going on, and this is where there's that kind of revelation of, well, maybe kind of like religion and quantum physics are just like one and the same, and they've been using kind of religion as like an explanation to explain a lot of the scientific stuff over the years. So like they were saying they were miracles, but really they were the Axides, like extraterrestrials. Do you think those like ancient aliens shows on the History Channel and stuff got inspiration from this film? They just
I
take
don't
all the
know.
material.
It's a kind of theme that's come up a few times. I mean, even like the Dalai Lama's done books going where he's sat down and talked with like physicists and whatnot. So it's a kind of thing where they take it literally or as mythology. It's come up a number of times in films and books and that about the correlations of religion and modern science and whether we're looking at different symbology, ultimately looking at the same, larger reality or whatever.
I see as well in the
And it's
background
all aliens.
while
Easter Island, all aliens. That's
all this is kind of going on. There's like equipment being moved into the church so they can all get set up for the weekend. But while this is happening, we see that there's some what appear to be maybe homeless, vagrant type people seem to be kind of congregating around the building. We see a particularly
there
odd
he is.
looking woman who seems to be like covered in, what is she covered in, like bees or something, like wasps
Yeah,
crawling
like
on her face.
insects.
But yeah,
Could be
we
just
got
a
our first.
beekeeper, not prejudice.
Yeah, I shouldn't be so quick to judge. But of course, yeah, we got our first proper good look here at Alice Cooper.
I
Alice
mean, if
Cooper the
you if
Bum.
you're if you get on the street and the lady's covered in bees, don't go old John Carpenter and thing and just turn flamethrowers on strangers. They might just be beekeepers. They might not have anything to do with Satan or anything else.
And earlier on, you were mentioning about Cooper, so and showing up at Mania. Well,
I think
what
he's
did you
just shooting
know,
a
John?
music video, isn't he? He's just dressed as himself shooting a music video, and they just turned up and said, "All right, you can be at the movie."
Well, apparently John Carpenter had actually met him at that
Yeah.
WrestleMania he was at.
Oh
Funnily
wow,
enough, that's how the connection was made.
that's
So
cool.
there's a bit of so we've got a John Carpenter, Roddy Piper, Alice Cooper connection all being kind of formed
Mm,
out of that WrestleMania. So that's pretty cool.
yeah.
And yeah, he does. He plays the role of satanic bum very well, was Mr. Cooper. Yeah, lots of this is kind of what I was talking about earlier on, in the sense that it's like his other horror movies, in the sense that like tons of this opening moments, and we're kind of moved kind of beyond the opening now, but we're still like, the whole film so far has just been people literally talking and speculating about things and preparing for something that we still don't fully know yet what it is. Like, so far all we know is that there's this weird canister of green slime that's of extraterrestrial origin, and it's starting to leak out of the canister, and we don't know what's going to happen if it actually does manage to successfully leak out of the canister. We do know that it's probably going to be something bad, because Donald Pleasance, as he's translating the old kind of written notes from the ancient order, they seem to indicate that bad things will happen if this force escapes, but we just still don't know fully what it is and what it's capable of.
Even they couldn't know, because it's been so long that they've contained this thing, that they're just the current generation who are, you know, being the security guards for this thing. So they don't know what really could ultimately happen, because it's all based on this stuff from the past.
We do get to see once again all the students here getting to know each other as they get set up. We see the various different representatives from the different educational departments kind of meeting and essentially asking Victor Wong, why are they here and what are they supposed to be looking for? In which he responds to, well, I can't really tell you because I don't really know either. But all I know is that like you're going to need like all your equipment, and you're basically just going to have to like monitor everything that happens here over the weekend. So yeah, we see
It's like
Donald
those
Pleasance,
Discovery Channel with sci-fi Ghostbusters shows where they're running around going, with all the equipment and jump scares.
Notice as well, like Donald Pleasance's character, he rides in style. The Catholic Church are like forking out for like a limousine to get him from place to place. I suppose when you're doing the Lord's work, you know, you got to ride in style. And yeah, we've also, part of the expertise in the group that they've brought in as well, they've also brought in like language students and like cultural studies students who are going to try and translate some of the ancient texts, because like a lot of the stuff, it's not even written in English. There's stuff written in Latin and like ancient Sumerian and all sorts of like
just
dead languages that has to be translated as well. And yeah, it's a real scramble of expertise to try and get to the bottom of the mystery of what the green goo is. What does the green goo do?
It's a mystery blind bag.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that stuff at the shops here, the mystery, this and that, some goo and prices.
What do you think of what's happened so far and how they've kind of set up what we're moving towards?
I like it. It's, as you said, it's a bit of the first time through, it's a bit of a headache trying to keep track of what's going on, but there's a lot of characters kind of thrown at you pretty fast. And there's not a criticism of the film. It just is what it is. Like it, and it doesn't bother me, but it's a fair bit to keep track of. And then you got horror stuff and sciencey stuff, and like, I mean, I've watched a shitload of horror films, and I don't really read about physics stuff, but I've read some soft cover stuff that was, you know, mass market things years ago. So most of the things I talk about in the film, I had some context for. Whereas if you had knowledge of any of those things, I'd just be getting a bit confusing at this point. Like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, gobbledygook to a lot of people, I imagine, at the time. Which I think is part, if you do look at some of the contemporary criticisms from the time, that does play into it a little bit, that it's just, and it's not even as like an overly complicated idea. Like, I know I was making that joke about ancient aliens and stuff, but like, as you mentioned, you know, there is other examples of this kind of being used, or this premise being used in other things. So, but yeah, it's just, I think, like I said, because it's so character heavy, like, I know, like, we've only really mentioned Victor Wong, Donald Pleasance, and like 3 of the students, but really there's been probably, like, at this point, like, what would you say, like 9 or 10 characters already introduced, you know, that we haven't even
but you only see them kind of briefly here and there, and we see some, and I mean, in the later second half, some of them are going to be dying, so don't worry too much, we don't remember them all.
Yeah, a lot of them are going to be, they're going to be becoming bodies essentially, and and they're just going to be becoming the zombies later on that we're going to have to take out.
I do like seeing all these practical, like, bits of computers and equipment and stuff. It feels like good real world sets and props and such. And
I do like also we got our green text on a black background. I love
Yeah,
seeing that on computers.
that's a lot
On
nicer on the
Macs
eyes than the
too.
orange text on the black background on some computers.
The visual effects, as we mentioned earlier, great visual effects in the movie. Like even the substance within the canister. I'm sure it's a very simple, like probably possibly like a giant lava lamp effect, but like
Yeah,
it works. Whatever
there's
way
something
they've
there,
done
yeah,
it,
and
it
backlit
works.
or top lit or whatever it is. And
Yeah, it looks really nice.
you got to collect them all, those ooze canisters. Who knows what's going to mutate out of them?
Yeah, more. I think this is like the first night in the church with them all staying over. So essentially, they've all been given rooms and kind of fold out beds, temporary beds they're going to sleep on for the night. Nobody seems particularly happy at all to be here because they just keep being asked to run these different experiments and run different reports, and they're being given bits of data from downstairs, but they don't know what it is, and they're beginning to get frustrated and starting to ask questions. And like I said, there doesn't seem to be any answers to these questions coming anytime soon. But we see as all this kind of work and preparation is still going on outside of the building in the darkness, yet more and more homeless people seem to be kind of gathering and surrounding the building and kind of wandering through the back
Yeah, like
alleys.
Night of
And
the
as
Living
one
Dead
of
style.
yeah, and as one of the equipment managers for the university is actually leaving, he goes to exit through the back door of the building, and he comes
No, don't
across
go down those
Alice.
stairs from Resident Evil 2, man, because there's a zombie just under that archway. As soon as you turn around there, it's just going to get you.
Yeah, he
You
should have
won't know
listened
because the
out.
camera will change angles on you.
Yeah, the fixed camera angle hides
They'll get.
the. You have to listen for the groan. Um, but yeah, he stumbles across Alice Cooper, who's standing silently in the alleyway looking at him. So this unnerves him a little bit. So he goes to turn to walk the other direction, but then he realizes that, oh, wait a minute, there's a whole horde of homeless looking angry people here. So I'm not going to go that way either. So just as he turns around to face the direction that Alice Cooper was, he ends up getting skewered, and he gets skewered by a half bicycle. Isn't that what kills him? There's like an old rusted bicycle that's like cut in
Yeah, I don't
half
remember it was
sitting in the
metal.
alley.
It looks like an improv shiv sort of thing.
Yeah. Alice Cooper just picks it up and skewers him with his pretty nasty way to go, especially for this poor dude who didn't really have much to do with anything. He was literally just some like
Yeah,
random equipment guy, dropping some stuff off from the
yeah, just
university.
AV club dropping stuff.
And of course, his death will go unknown to everybody for the entire movie. I don't think this dude is ever mentioned again or asked about, or he doesn't even kind of come back as one of those zombie people. He's just dead in an alley somewhere. Oh, and we also get to see now some of the students are allowed to go downstairs and actually have a look at what it is they're supposed to be studying. So we've got this one dude with like the big forehead and his kind of nerdy girl pal, and they're both kind of looking at the canister of goo and speculating as to what it could be about. And the big guy, he's like, well, I'm running
That's
so and so
melons.
tests. It's generating energy, and we don't understand how it's able to do it. And as he's kind of explaining this to her, the girl kind of looks up towards the top of the canister, and she can kind of see that the canister is leaking, but it's not leaking like in the traditional sense that something would leak out of a vial and then pour downwards. The drops are actually floating upwards
Yeah, definitely want to
into
get a
the air.
tradesman about that green goo rotting your ceiling.
Yeah, you'd probably want to get a professional in to get that checked out. You don't want it.
Well, forget
open
that
your
fella. He's
walls.
called Dirk Blocker. That name sounds like maybe he could fix your ceiling.
But this is another one of those clever visual effects we spoke of earlier, and I'm sure it's quite simple as just filming something dripping for a year and then just turning the footage upside down to
Yeah,
get that
upside
effect.
down
But
or reversing, a mixture of those sort of things.
it still
I
looks
love when
very
they do in
cool.
films. They do the ball back into the hand or the arrow, like where it's just they've filmed it and they reversed it and it flies back into the person's hand or something like those sort of tricks.
So now that a few people have kind of gotten a look at what's down below, and they've even more questions now. So there's like this kind of, I suppose, meeting called among them to try and like work out, okay, what's going on? What happens if this thing fully leaks out? And, how do we stop it? What are we going to do about it? And once again, these questions just lead to more questions and more
Yes.
non-answers. We do get the revelation though around this time because one of the language students who's been kind of translating the old text, they find out, as I mentioned earlier, Jesus, he was actually an extraterrestrial, and he had tried to warn people about this evil force, but then he was executed for heresy, and
Yes.
that's how the legend of Jesus came to be, and all this type of stuff. And really, that the Catholic Church knew that this kind of extraterrestrial force was on the planet the whole time, but they made it their sole goal to keep it a secret and contain it for as long as possible. So now though we appear to be reaching a real kind of crunch point, because the the monitors have been showing that this canister has been emitting like a strange energy force now for quite some time, and it only seems to be increasing. And Victor Wong speculates, or maybe it's actually Jameson, I think, who speculates that the force is actually psychokinetic. It's a form of
Yes.
psychokinesis, which will
Like
later on
Ghostbusters too.
kind
Yeah.
of explain. It will kind of explain the reason why the homeless people are gathering around. They seem to be being summoned by this energy force towards the church. So we do get that revelation as well, among the kind of just the random scientific gobbledygook that's been kind of spewed out of everybody's mouth. Like,
Could be in
there
bison
is just,
inside there. That's what I might.
could be. You just don't know. You just don't know. It could be the G virus. It could be M
Yeah.
bison.
It's hard.
Could be any number of Capcom properties within that canister. And still, of course, nobody noticed that the equipment guy just never came back, or
Yeah.
never, he never made it home. And I
No, he
think
was
as
definitely a rich
well,
girl.
we kind of get a moment where, because everybody's kind of so tired and pissed off, they're kind of like, well, do we even want to stay here and kind of continue with this? Like, I don't want to spend the night here in this place. But eventually they're
Yeah.
kind of talked into staying on and continuing with the research.
Bit of a dodgy situation.
Bit of a dodgy situation. We see here some more banter between the students. I know I'm kind of quite repetitive when I'm discussing this stuff, but so much, as I'm sure you know from watching it
Mm.
earlier, so much of the movie really is just one person walks up to another person,
Yeah.
asks them a question, and the person can't answer the question they've been asked.
You almost want like a fist fight or something to break out. Absolutely asking me questions. Punch you down. Don't know. Stop asking. But it is good dialogue and good character interactions. It's not boring. It's like I enjoy the movie from start to finish.
Yeah, and the whole time this is happening, we do, like, you have to remember, like, if you're watching, you've got that tense John Carpenter score just kind
Yes.
of ambiating through it the whole time. So it is adding to everything. Plus, like, in between almost every scene of just people conversing, it always cuts back to either the bums gathering outside or liquid in the canister leaking out. So there's these kind of multiple things happening at once that we're kind of trying to
It's got kind
keep
of
track
similar
of.
pacing to the thing, except we don't see any gunfights or flamethrowers.
Yeah, and at least not yet. People haven't become something else, though that will start to happen shortly as we progress through. And yeah, we see Victor and Donald Pleasance here having an argument over why the church thought it was right to hide these things from humanity. And Donald Pleasance, of course, doing what every good Catholic priest is doing, and he's defending the church for their terrible, terrible actions and their lies over the years. So nothing new there, really, or nothing too strange if you know anything about the Catholic Church in real life. I totally would
Just
believe that.
have a pipe, go down the Winchester, and it will all blow over.
Yeah, no, like I could totally believe that the Catholic Church would hide the existence of aliens from us. Totally believe it.
Well, who knows what secret documents they got locked away in their big headquarters? And I mean, they do have a lot of old timey documents and copies of things, even from other cultures around the world in the old days.
I heard they have a flying saucer buried underneath the Vatican.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's definitely there. Just don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anybody.
They'll go over there and start trying to dig it up with the metal detectors.
We got a nice moment now. This is where things kind of start to heat up. So a couple of the lads, they go outside into the car park and they're kind of having a heated debate about whether or not they should actually stay and actually go through with this. And one guy is just like, look, this is bullshit. I don't really care to keep doing this. If you guys want to like waste your weekend like researching this bullshit and do well in college, that's great, but I want to go home. So two of the guys walk back inside while the one guy kind of stays out in the car park. And as he's in the car park, he looks across the way and he sees a couple more of these kind of homeless people gathered along the edges, and he thinks that's a bit weird. And he turns back towards the building and he looks and he can see his friends are after going inside. And then when he turns around again, one of the homeless is right up beside him, like literally just right on him. And yeah, he's kind of all freaked out by it, and he starts to back away, but then he realizes that it's like bugs. What type of bugs are these that are on him? Are they like roaches?
Meant to be some kind of beetles or something, because it's a similar looking effect like in the Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, all of a sudden
like
they're like
scarab beetles or something like that. It's some kind of beetly things that crawl all over each other, because they're not cockroaches. They're too dark coloured. And
yeah, and he begins to like brush them, and like he's like stepping on them. They're all over him, starting to chew on him and bite him. Should probably note actually as well, I forgot to mention, moments before this scene, we saw as well that the nerdy girl who had been very kind of captivated by the green goo leaking out of the cylinder, she actually ventured a little bit too close to it, and some of the green gunk actually came down from the ceiling and sprayed into her mouth. So now she has been infected by this green gooey substance. And the whole time this poor dude in the car park is having such a bad time with the bum and the bugs, she's actually just standing on the balcony kind of evilly watching what's happening and obviously not making any effort to help. She's just kind of staring at him menacingly. So yeah, we know that the bum kills the dude in the car park, but we won't see just yet what fully happens there when it comes to the bugs and all that. So for now anyway, we know that already actually three people. So we've got the equipment guy who got killed earlier on. We've got the nerdy girl now who's been infected by the green goo, and now this dude in the car park who we're pretty sure is dead, but we just don't know fully yet what may have happened there, but we'll get to him later. So yeah, back in the inside once again, we're kind of back to form here with people arguing with each other and questioning whether they should be here at all. It's beginning to emerge as well. When people are beginning to fall asleep, they're all kind of having the same recurring dream.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a shared dream that they're all having. Like there's no difference in the dream. And in the dream, you always see the outside of the church. It's during the daytime, and you see this dark, shadowy figure emerging from the entranceway, and everybody's having this dream. So, and you can kind of hear a voice repeating over saying that they're trying to transmit a message directly from the future, and this is the only way they can reach them. Sorry, little buddy, he's jumping around here. And yeah, it's another weird happening. Though we did mention earlier on that the ancient sect that looks after um the secret, they did communicate by dreaming, or they could communicate with each other through their dreams. So there's another little strand of weirdness there that's kind of
Yeah,
integrated into
which
the
kind of ties into the lecture back towards the start where he's talking about time basically doesn't exist. It's all simultaneous, particularly if you're in a dream state. It's a timeless state. So whether you're dreaming now or 100 years in the future or back, it's like a psychic connection across that sort of barrier.
that we see as one of the ladies, I believe it's the Asian language translator girl, she goes to get a little bit of rest, and she's awoken in her room by the nerdy girl from earlier on who's been infected, and she crawls on top of her, and we think we're almost going to get a posh and saucy lesbian
Yeah,
love
it's
scene.
like
But
she's going to kiss her or something.
yeah, she gets real close, but instead of giving her a bit of tongue, she instead just opens her mouth and sprays a load of the green goo from her mouth
Yeah,
into
feels
the other
very
girl's mouth.
Exorcist. This thing.
Very Exorcist. So yeah, so we're establishing now that whatever's in this canister, it's almost like some contagion type chemical. Almost, it's like a biohazardous material, and it can be
Yeah,
spread
which
from
is
person to
also
person.
similar to the thing again, where like it gets into your system and it's using your body as a host or carrier.
Yeah. So that's two ladies now in the group that seem to be infected and walking around now with this green goo inside them. So yeah, things are definitely going awry for this night of research that's going on here. And of course we see Jameson and a couple of the others down below as well. They're monitoring the status of the canister and also wondering what happened to the nerdy girl from earlier, because nobody seems to be able to find her. They don't realize yet that she's actually running around and trying to vomit green gunk into
Yeah,
everybody.
they got the nice ambience of the extra dribbly candles in the background. Makes for a nice scene.
Who was keeping all those candles lit, I wonder, after that
I don't
last
know.
presentation?
That was a stagehand or a key grip or something just off the side. You don't see them on the scene. It's their full time job, just lighting all the candles between scenes.
And we see another weird occurrence here where one of the girls is starting to complain that
Is it mono?
she hurt her arm earlier, and that it's starting to bruise. And when Catherine looks at the girl's arm, she kind of thinks that the bruise is forming like a pattern. It almost looks like the pattern of a cross. The girl, she doesn't really want to hear about it. She's like, "Oh, look, it's sore, but I'm tired and I just want to go to bed. And I'll worry about this weird crucifix bruise that just appeared on my arm some other time. For the
Yeah, what about
meantime, I
later?
just want to, yeah, worry about it later. In the meantime, I just want to go to sleep and not
Just have a
think about
sleep,
it.
just like in those Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Everything worked out on those.
So the bruised girl goes off to catch some shut eye, and then we cut to another dude who's wandering the corridors, and he stumbled across the language student from earlier on who'd been infected, and she's sitting at her computer typing. The only problem is she's not actually looking at the computer screen, and she's typing a load of like biblical whataboutery. So this, as you can imagine, freaks the dude out a little bit, and he goes to kind of back away from her. And as he's turning to walk out of the room, he turns around once again to see the nerdy girl, and she does that thing she does where she knocks you to the ground, and then she goes and pukes a load of green spit into his mouth. So now we have 3 people that are infected by this mysterious force. So yeah, there's a lot of getting up close and personal in people's faces and shooting liquid into their mouths, which I imagine was something that would have made people feel very uncomfortable watching this, I'd imagine. We don't want I don't want some stranger shooting his green DNA into me.
No, thanks. I don't want to have your alien baby.
Yeah, so it's amazing though, like well, maybe it's not that amazing. There is a lot of people involved in this academic study, so maybe it isn't that strange that they don't notice that one by one students have been disappearing all night.
Yeah.
And though if I was one of the professors, I'd probably just assume, oh look, they just got tired of this whole fucking setup, and they politely told me they were going to stay, but really they actually all just snuck out the back door as soon as we were out of the room.
Behind bike sheds having a smoke and a drink and going to sleep.
Yeah. But we see here now that they're analyzing the results of their studies a little bit more, and they're kind of building further upon that theory that there's a real element of telekinesis power at play here, and that whatever the substance within the canister is, it has an almost psychic ability, and it's able to reach people and possibly make them do things that they wouldn't usually do if they weren't under the influence of it. And while this is kind of being explained, we see Catherine, and she goes to look out the window, and she notices that that dude in the car park from earlier on is standing there. So I suppose we as the audience are like, oh dude, the dude's still alive. And Catherine, she calls Jameson and the others over to the window. She's like, oh look, there's, so and so standing in the car park. And this is where we just got this great, fantastic visual effect of, you see the dude, he's standing in the car park. We got a close up of his face. He looks like dead. He looks like a zombie. And we also see that his entire body is like covered in these like beetles. They're like crawling all over him. And how would you describe it? It's almost like his body just begins to fall apart and break apart.
Yeah,
as these,
it's like
beetles consume it.
Sometimes I'm not clear whether he's turning into the beetles or they're just eating him from the inside out, like all his flesh, and then he's just like collapsing like a puppet, like there's just nothing left, and his head snaps off, and it's similar to like in the Mummy when the guy just all goes into sand or beetles and that just all goes to pieces.
Except in this movie, it's a practical effect and not
it's all practical, no
CGI.
dodgy computer ones there.
And it looks phenomenal, yeah, just to see his whole body collapsing and his head roll off his shoulders. And
yeah, it just kind of like self decapitates and just falls off because of the lack of any elasticity. It's all just gone.
And of course, this is like a seriously horrific moment, which in itself would be enough. If you were to witness this as part of this group of students, you'd be like,
not like the other guy
okay,
got stabbed. This guy's like, he's just fallen apart into a bunch of beetles, and now it's just a pile of clothes on the ground.
Yeah, you'd be totally freaked out. You'd definitely be calling an end to the night and possibly ringing the police. But as they are kind of just about to
food.
they do freak out, and they go to kind of just, as they're moving away from the window, they turn around and they realize that the dude from earlier on that got, he is now
He's
at the
singing like
top
a
of the
kind of
stairs.
religious hymn or something. He's trying to resist the evil presence
Yes, yes, he is. He's like singing a little prayer to himself while
because he
walking
tries to
towards
stab
them.
himself.
Hey, he tries and he succeeds. He actually he breaks the like arm or the leg off the chair he's carrying and drives it into his own neck.
Yeah,
Yeah, trying to unalive
nasty.
himself. So yeah, he's clearly trying to resist the power of this evil force, whatever it may be. And I guess his way of resisting was just, stab yourself in the neck. So he collapses to the ground, and everybody rushes to his aid, and tries to get like his neck bandaged up while he's like freaking out on the floor. And while this is going on, the dude, our young hero from Big Trouble in Little China, he starts wandering the corridors and looking around, and he realizes when he goes down below that the actual most of the contents of the canister has now completely leaked out, and it's like covering the entire ceiling of the kind of chamber that it's been in up until now. So he obviously wants to go and alert everybody to what's happened, but as he's going to do this, our two lady friends who've already been infected by the green goo try to stop him, and they're pretty forceful and they're kind of manhandling him. So in the end, he actually has no choice but to escape into a cupboard and lock himself in a cupboard, essentially to escape the two ladies. And the two infected ladies have also taken an interest in the girl earlier who mentioned that she had the bruise on her arm in the shape of the cross. They seem to be very intent in keeping an eye on her and watching her while she sleeps. And it also appears that the green slime is actually gathering around her and kind of forming like congregating and congealing on the ceiling of the room that she's sleeping in. So there's like something going on with her and like the green goo, like there's some link there between this bruise that's on her arm and what's happening with all the gunk. So yeah, like all this chaos is going on at once. And we even see this Mr. Stab Myself in the Neck guy has now kind of revived as a kind of laughing zombie, and he's going around like chasing people, through the corridors. Um, we see another one of the kind of academic lecturer guys, the guy who's walking around smoking all the time. He's been infected now as well, and he's gotten up and is walking around. So it's pretty clear, like that there's that there's something really terrible going on. So everybody's in a bit of a panic, and they've kind of split into different groups. So Donald Pleasance, he runs into one room where he locks himself in, and Victor Wong and the rest of the students, they run into another room that they all barricade themselves inside to try and escape the other members of the team who've been infected. And it also appears that when this like green goo infects you, that you kind of get a little dose of super strength as well, because the two ladies were like manhandling the guy earlier on. Like they were very easily able to kind of overpower him and subdue him. And likewise here, when the students are kind of locked in themselves in the room, they actually need to like put a load of furniture and stuff up against the door just to stop it
Yeah,
from being broken in. And in the case of Donald Pleasance, the room he's in, the lock is easily broken off the door while the guy with the stabbed neck comes into the room and starts looking for him. But luckily for Donald Pleasance, the guy who's looking for him is distracted by his own reflection in the mirror, and that kind of allows Donald to continue hiding in the darkness of the room while the dude with the hole in his neck is kind of fascinated by his own reflection.
And is it
Yeah,
him
it's
that goes out the window, or is he just looking out the window?
yeah, I think I think he's just looking out the window, and there is I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier. He seemed to be somewhat resistant to the Force because we saw he was kind of singing the prayer to himself earlier before he cut himself, but also now even in the mirror, when he's looking at himself in the mirror, he's kind of almost crying and sobbing like he's trying to
Yeah.
fight back the evil that's overtaken him. We see as well that the students who've barricaded themselves into one room realize that Dennis, the Chinese guy, that the cupboard he's in is actually in the room right next door, and he's kind of calling through the wall to them, and he's saying, "Look, the two girls are here. They seem to be like super strong. I'm trapped in this closet and I can't get out."
Yeah.
Oh, and
His
also,
skin's
by the
going like
way,
Deadpool.
yeah, there's the girl on the bed who had the bruise. She seems to be like mutating, and it looks like she's pregnant now as well because all the green slime has like gone inside her, and it's like being absorbed inside her and giving her a big swollen belly. So he's absolutely freaking out inside the closet. So the students in the room next door, they hatch a plan to try and break through the wall on the other side to try and, you know, dig him out through the wall essentially, since he can't get past the two infected girls. So yeah, it's all getting very crazy and intense. Of course, that the kind of makeup and prosthetic effects they use for the girl on the bed is,
It's
you know,
incredible. It's very
yeah,
realistic.
she
It's
actually,
not just like a zombie kind of look. It's like a flesh-eating diseased tissue or burns, all that kind of stuff. If you watch like medical gory stuff, it looks very realistic.
yeah, and we essentially learn while all this is going on, because once, like, there's always so much kind of explanatory dialogue in this movie, like, so it's kind of told to us during this kind of rescue effort that she is essentially like a host for the spawn of this kind of liquid, and it's kind of manifesting itself in human form by going inside her and making her this powerful vessel that it can kind of use its power to control and use its psychokinetic ability through. And we see as she begins to wake up and we get a look at her grotesque face, she's actually able to like just use telekinesis to send like furniture across the room and like try and break the door down of the wardrobe that Dennis is hiding in. And he's really like kind of shitting himself because the girl, she's probably just going to come through the door and get him, and the two other infected ladies are also trying to get in to kill him as well. So they just about managed to break through the wall and pull
It's
Dennis
taken a
out.
while. They're hacking away bit by bit.
Yeah, it does take a long time, and he almost gets got because as they're pulling him out, one of the girls is actually hanging on to his leg, so they have to like use like bits of wood with nails and stuff, and like bits of chair legs to kind of like beat the
Yeah, it's
hell out
like
of her and try
all the
and beat her
guys from
off.
like Living Dead sort of scene. That's cool.
Yeah, we actually get a great moment where yeah, the students are pretty much like bludgeoning the girls with these bats and boards, but it's not really having any effect on them because they're super strong. Now, it's at this point of the movie that like it does begin to kind of get hard to explain what's going on, because we see now that the infected force of the green goo, when it approaches reflective surfaces, it seems to be able to open, like, what would you say, a portal into another
Like
dimension?
I'd say like a dimensional doorway. Like
because when she steps up to the mirror, when she actually touches the mirror, it becomes liquefied.
Yeah.
And then we can see on the other side of the mirror that there seems to be like another large creature. We only ever get to see its hand. But she seems to be able to communicate with us, and she wants to bring it through into their dimension. So I guess the force on the other side might actually be Satan himself, who I guess in
Yeah,
this
that's
instance
the
is like
impression I get, or it's like his other full vessel or whatever, like it's another physical incarnational thing that's going to probably have all the power if it comes through.
and of course Satan in this instance is probably extraterrestrial and from another
Yeah,
dimension. I think we can surmise now. So Donald Pleasance, he realizes what she's trying to do. So he emerges from his hiding spot with a fire axe,
yeah, they
and he's
probably got
pretty
that from
quick to the
Halloween, I bet.
draw. He lunges at her, and he cuts her arm off just as she's about to stick it through the portal. And and once again it's another brilliant visual effect. We see the arm
It's
slice
only a
off,
scrap.
and it disappears through the portal. And that's a really cool. We even see the blood kind of floating
I
in the
wonder how they
ether.
did that. Did they mention it on the commentary how they did it? In the thing, there's a scene where the guy's putting his hands on top of what they think's a dead guy, and then the mouth comes and goes and chomps his arms off. And that one was a practical effect where they got a actual amputee person or someone who had actually lost their arms for real as a stand-in in that scene. They built a prosthetic on their arm, so when you see it rip off, it really rips off, and it's super
Yeah.
realistic flesh. So I wonder if they did the same again here, because it's very realistic here.
If I had to guess, I would say they did something similar.
Well, they might have just
They
had another
also,
bit of wood on the other end or anything, but because it really, really rips.
like, there's also an excellent visual effect where after her hand is being cut off, she literally just grows another hand out of her
Yeah,
arm, which looks brilliant. Like it just looks really, really freaky and cool. So we think that all hope is going to be lost here because she's clearly very powerful. She's able to use her psychic ability to disarm Donald Pleasance, and she's kind of essentially laughing in his face. But as all this is going on, the red-haired girl, Catherine, she's kind of running down the corridor and she sees what's happening in the room. She sees that the demon spawn, for want of a better word, has her back turned to her while she's going to do away with Donald Pleasance. So she does an incredibly brave thing where she rushes towards her and more or less kind of spears her, through the portal gateway and into the other dimension, and it closes behind them. The
yeah, it's
glass
all liquid
shatters,
on the
and
side, so it looks cool, like they're going into a liquid pool.
yeah, it looks scary, to be honest, if you were the person
And then
actually doing that.
I think like they'd smash it with the axe or something after that, like it gets
Yes,
broken, so it can't open again.
and so it appears, I suppose, that all is well. Like, so the people who are still alive, we see them, they're kind of gathering up their belongings and trying to kind of take account of what happened. We see that finally someone has called the police and ambulance services, because I think
Bodies were piling up.
maybe I'm can you remember at any point, like, they never lose power or lose the ability to call the police in this movie? They just don't do it. It
I don't
just
think so, but there were too busy people dying, and they're trying to react to
Yeah.
stuff that's happening, and there's a homeless party happening outside, and
That's the Catholic Church once again, man. They're just trying to cover everything up and not alert the appropriate authorities when they need to. And
I'll just
we
sweep it
see,
under the rug and send them off
well,
to
just
Craig
sweep it
Island. Don't
under the
worry
rug.
about
Yeah, that money was just resting in my account.
it. Interesting.
But yeah, so we see in the aftermath, there's a bit of a cleanup, and we see that Donald Pleasance, he's been injured, but he's still alive, and he's talking to Victor Wong about how he hopes everything is going to be okay, and we think that hopefully everything will be okay. But then
Like
we
in the fog.
see, just like in the fog, though, Benson, or Jameson, I should say, he's at the end we see he's dreaming, and we get a proper look at what the dream actually is this time. So up until now, the dream always would cut off just as you kind of saw the shadowy figure emerging from the light. You never actually got to see what the shadowy figure was, but at the end we see in the dream, when we zoom in closer, we see the shadowy figure is actually Catherine herself. So maybe the dream is actually a warning that it in fact is her that's going to be coming back through the dimension, and she is now going to be the host of this satanic extraterrestrial that's going to come through the other dimension and destroy the world. And we don't know though for definite, because Jameson wakes up and we get that weird moment where he goes to touch the mirror, but we never actually get to see if it's a portal to another dimension, because the credits come up in the end. So we're left to speculate on what the future may hold in that respect. You know, was he just dreaming the dream as a kind of after effect of what had happened, or is the dream in fact still a prediction of the future?
Yeah, that's the mystery, because it's the dream and psychic connection of not knowing whether it's past, present, or future, or hallucination or whatever. But it's in the earlier parts of the film, they thought it was some kind of message, you know, to tell them something. So we don't know. So it's a fun Carpenter ending, because it just leaves it open to, you know, if you watch that in the cinema and you go home and you kind of just think it over and think, oh man, what really happened?
So I'm just looking up briefly here. So apparently the creature on the other side of the
Yeah.
portal is known as the anti-god,
Uh-huh.
and he comes from another dimension. So that's the explanation there of
So I
what
wonder
that
if the
thing
Jesus
is.
character also comes from another dimension. Is he meant to be like the equivalent, or?
I guess so. But once again, like I said, I did listen to the audio commentary, and
Yeah.
Carpenter, unlike in his other movie commentaries, he doesn't offer too much in regards
Yeah.
to going too deep on the story. He's mainly just more happy about just the visual effects, the
Yeah.
actual
I think it
pacing
works
and
best that
makeup of
way.
the movie.
Leave it to the audience to have their own interpretation, and don't
Yeah.
drip feed them every bit of it.
And I know folks, like, if people have sat through this and managed to listen to me just bollocks my way through it, I do apologize. It's just, but look, I'm sure Johnny will back me up here. It's a pretty tough movie to kind of describe. Like, in some ways, not a lot is happening, and in other ways, so much
Yeah.
is happening that you
A lot
actually
of
can't
dialogue, a lot of
describe it.
moody ambience, and little small scenes, and
It's nothing like what we're going to be. Well, I won't say nothing like, but it's not very like the next movie we're going to be talking about, like next week, which is
that's what I was
lots of
watching earlier
action.
today. Now I'll
My
just see
my favorite.
little hint of what else was coming up for next week in our Carpenter marathon. Was it mac and cheese? Was that what it was called?
We have to
Not
prepare
sure.
all our meals.
Yes. McCready. I'll tell you what, trust is a tough thing to come by.
My favorite Carpenter movie is the one we're looking at next week. I absolutely
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
my favorite Carpenter movie. I watched it today for like the 30th time or 35th time. I don't know how many times I watched it there.
And you know, we've been impressed with some of the visual effects we've seen so far. Wait till we get to the thing. It's like the magnus opus of practical visual
I
effects
still
in a
think
movie.
it's like, for practical effects, I still think it's the best fucking film of anything done, especially of that era. Like, other comparable stuff might be, I don't know, stuff with James Cameron or whatever, but the stuff in this, the combination of things in the thing is just like, to me, it's just unparalleled. It's an amazing
And,
film.
and we're not just talking creature effects here, folks. Even the
Even that beard,
modeling in
man.
the
Look at
thing.
that beard on
Yeah,
Kurt Russell. That's a practical effect. You can't fake that.
yeah, great acting, great effects, great music, great story.
Great scenes of
And
sitting drinking booze in the cold.
yeah, it's a remake. Is this going to be the first remake we're tackling on the show?
I think so.
Because it is
I've never
technically
actually
a
watched the
remake of
original.
the thing.
I've never watched the original thing, but I've got to go back and actually watch it, because it's meant to be a decent film, and it is fairly similar, other than that the alien is quite different and not a Frankenstein's looking monster thing like in the original way.
Yeah. In the original one, yeah, the alien, it's very humanoid, and you do get to see it more up close. I don't know how to describe it. The alien is almost like more plant-like in the original than like, you know, an animal. Like it's nearly like a giant vegetable that absorbs you, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good fun. The Howard Hawks thing. I definitely would recommend watching it if you haven't
Any
seen
film by Howard Hawks is worth watching.
But yeah, folks, like I said, I did not do justice to Prince of Darkness with my ropey description, but I would encourage you to, if you haven't watched the movie, don't trust my ramblings as you know, a good indicator of how good it is. Go and watch it. It
I
actually is
still
good.
put it in his upper tier of John Carpenter films. I mean, it's just that he's done so many like classic ones that people know so well, like The Thing and Halloween and that, and Escape from New York. It's just that he's done so many like really fucking great ones up here that even his like kind of next level down ones are still pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even on his worst day, it's still better than most people's best days when it comes to
It's going to
Carpenter.
beat anything you've ever watched on the Sci-Fi Channel, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, big time, big time. Yeah, hopefully, folks, you are here next week for John Carpenter's The Thing. Looking forward to talking about it and hearing Johnny's thoughts on it as well.
I don't give a fuck about your thing or your war or your president or your aliens.
I'm right.
But yeah, there'll be
We
plenty
believe in
of
Jay-Z.
boozing and shooting next week in The Thing, as well as alien monsters.
Yeah, yeah. We were kind of lacking in gun action in today's movie, so we're going to make up for that a bit. We're going to have shotguns and
Get all
flamethrowers. We're going to have a
flamethrowers
great time.
and blame throwers as well. Get all lick
Oh
it up
yeah,
and start shooting it at our friends in close quarters.
and we're going to see some great dog acting as well next week.
Yeah, some beautiful
That
dogs in that
dog,
film.
that dog is a phenomenal actor. The kind of main
Yeah,
feature dog. We'll get into that at the time.
yeah. I'm going to play the outro thing here, so I'll catch you next time.
Take care, folks.